welcome to Heed the Call, an NFL podcast. Seconds after the conclusion of Super Bowl 60. The Seattle Seahawks 29, the New England Patriots 13. Seattle wins their second championship in their history, capping a brilliant campaign, front to back, offensive, defensive, and now we're going to talk about all of it. Dan Hanzus here, Marc Sessler, Arif Hasan, Justin Graver on the ones and twos. Sessy, we talked about how this was a weird, wild NFL season. It's not how the Super Bowl played out, but at the same time, and I don't want to be reductive and just say, let's talk about the quarterback. The Sam Darnold Seattle Seahawks just won the Super Bowl, and that is pretty weird and pretty wild.
I mean, if you go back to August, we would be checked medically to suggest that was a given. But you are a Sam Darnold-led offense paired with what looks like a top 5 defense in NFL history that showed up tonight from wire to wire. It was a neighborhood crime. It was a rough evening beatdown, never really put into question. And Dan, you and I have been through a couple Patriots losses in the biggest of stages. And Arif, I'll just let you know when that happens to the New England Patriots, get a little pep in Dan's step.
Yeah, Arif, it's. I mean, I believe the Patriots are the losingest Super Bowl team in NFL history now, so that's pretty cool. If you want to be that guy, you could say that this Patriots team finally got its comeuppance in a big spot against a truly great team. You can argue that.
You could.
But at the end of the day, I'd like to prefer at this time, at least at this portion of the program, Arif, to focus on what the Seahawks pulled off. Because, yes, while Darnold does get the ring, and that's marvelous, we will remember this game for the defensive dominance of Seattle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought Seattle put together an outstanding game plan. Drake May looked frazzled the whole time. And I think we talk a lot about, kind of what that might mean for him. But I think a lot of that is because of what Mike McDonald did. I thought really excellent sim pressure design. We talked about that on our show about kind of what they were able to do to try and make the looks look pretty difficult. We talked a little bit about the run game, but, the way Seattle approached that run game, we saw really outstanding plays from Devin Witherspoon, who would be my pick for MVP, honestly. I thought he had an outstanding game. But, I think that, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, who I don't believe shows up with like a pressure or anything like that. If you take a look at just how he played the game, he played just outstandingly well. Boy, Mafe had a couple of pressures. Derek Hall with 2 sacks. I think one of them was the fumble. It just looked really outstanding stuff. And I think, the early numbers, right? All of these preliminary numbers, you never know if they're going to be accurate on recheck or anything like that. But the early numbers have May only pressured on 30% of his dropbacks, but it looked like he was pressured so much longer. And I think that's because of the excellent coverage on this back end. Obviously, there's some offensive line problems that Seattle took a lot of advantage of. 2 rookies playing on the left side that Seattle made sure to target. But yeah, I think that this was the story of the game. I think are both defenses. For a while I was like, hey, Christian Gonzalez, MVP of a losing team. Yeah, I was kind of in my feels a little bit. Maybe that was a little bit too much. But I thought both defenses played some really outstanding football until like the very end, where we ended up seeing some cracks in those defenses showing.
Yeah, I think like one of the big factors was also because Darnold was under a lot of pressure out of the gate, and his ability to escape some of that and not wind up into the dark places that Drake May wound up was a huge difference in this stand for Seattle's offense. They were not spectacular, but he avoided like the devastating turnover where the other quarterback did not.
Yeah, they didn't. Collinsworth pointed out in the telecast that Milton Williams was doing Milton Williams things in this game, and in multiple times he seemed to have Darnold dead to rights. And Darnold did something that he's always it's been a little bit underrated about his game. He's not some like brilliant athlete in the sense of what you see about the top guys at the position in the league, but he can move and he can get out of the way and he can evade pressures. And there was there were a couple plays in the game where Darnold threw a ball that was up for grabs. There was a play early on where the defender just missed jumping in front of it for what would have been potentially a pick 6, but he was late. I think I'm not sure who it was on the defense on that, but they turned it into a first down. Christian Gonzalez at the end of the first half. I was really surprised and didn't love the way Kubiak/McDonald played the last possession of the half by Seattle, where it was like, listen, like, let's not make the Sean Payton mistake here. You have this Patriots team on the rope. Play it safe, kick the field goal, go up 9 points. They attempt a pass, and Christian Gonzalez gets two hands on the ball. And, you never know. If he comes down with that ball, it stays at 6. The Patriots get the ball coming out of the half. Maybe it's a different game, but that is not how it played out. Ultimately, yes, this was Darnold playing mistake-free. Drake May not able to do the same thing. Drake May, what we talked about, the Seattle Seahawks defense, even though statistically they weren't in his kitchen all game, it did feel that way. And they also had 6 sacks in this game. In fact, the play that ended the game, the Nwosu, I sound like Chris Russo right now, when he plucks the ball out of the air and takes it back to the house, that is marked as an interception, not a sack fumble. Otherwise, the Seahawks would have tied, Arif, the record for sacks in a game in the Super Bowl. So, yes, that defensive front did dominate, but that was also a blitz there that essentially decided the game. So just like a great effort, and for Drake May, and we said this so much, like the Patriots are ahead of schedule. The Patriots are ahead of schedule. And one of the reasons why this was such a crazy story about the Pats was this is a second-year quarterback all of a sudden playing a game in front of 115 million people. And it did look like it that at times. I did think he kind of was seeing ghosts. And I'll use Collinsworth again here, Arif, as the example. The last interception, the one that he airmails to the middle of the field, very rarely do you have a commentator not even know what he just saw. But I think the Seattle Seahawks sped up May to the point where he was no longer playing his game, and he was kind of seeing ghosts.
Yeah, absolutely. The Julian Love interception was so confusing, right? And it was the first thing I tweeted was like, Chris Collinsworth, who loves talking, had nothing to say about any of this.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you, right? And that is the correct reaction, I think, to something like that. When defenders are like getting into your pocket all the time, you feel like you have to speed up your process, and when you're speeding up your process, you're not kind of seeing the full field. Like we talked a little bit about how Drake May's progressions are like an old school quarterback's progressions, where he has to identify the defense first, and then from there he goes to his progression. And if you're just a little bit off, everything is going to break down, especially when a Mike McDonald defense does a lot to kind of confuse you just a little bit. It looks just a little bit different than what you expected every single time. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't know what happened specifically in that interception, but I do know on like the previous like 7 or 8 plays, there was just like a compounding of mental mistakes that May was making, right? That kept on going on, except for those 2 Mac Hollins plays, which outstanding stuff. Like, it's interesting that May was the most prominent poor performer in this game, but also the 2 best plays of the game. I think with all of those kind of stacking up, you begin to not trust yourself, which is the end of it, right? Like, if you can't trust yourself as a quarterback, the game is over. You're done. You're cooked. You're washed, right? And he still tried to get back from it. We saw another late score, but that was kind of it. That last pick, not just from like a game state perspective, which of course that was the dagger, but also from like a Mays kind of mindset perspective.
Right.
There's just not much you can do.
Well, I think also like you're looking at an offensive line that came into the game mid to late 20s in terms of pass protection. And Drake May was taken away on the ground. Will Campbell had issues. I mean, it's just kind of what we talked about leading up to the game is what happened in New England's offense. And I kind of think I asked on Thursday, can you look at, if you're Josh McDaniels, can you look at those Rams performances, 2 of the 3, and the Bucs performances against this defense and take anything? You can take something from it, but not, I think what the New England Patriots have to go into the offseason is like, we need weapons around this guy. There wasn't like a game-changing guy. And Darnold had to play for much of the game without Jackson Smith and Jigba and found his way out of it because Kenneth Walker had a dazzling night. No one stepped up to really help Drake May in an environment that grew more hostile as the game progressed.
I need 2 things. Let's bring in the gravedigger, White Gravy, who's going to be rapping at the end of this episode, and you could tell he's nervous.
That's all we need.
But I hope it's not like Drake May looking ghost pale white before kickoff, and something seems to be off with the quarterback. I think Justin has a quiet confidence to him. I need 2 things from you, Justin. First of all, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Okay, number 2. Can you let us know when you find out who the Super Bowl MVP was? I think it'll probably be Walker, but check in on that. And finally, and most importantly, please bring in Conor Orr if you can. He is live from the big bell bottom right now, joining us in the bowels of that building, waiting to get into media availability. Conor, welcome to the live Super Bowl 60 recap. Seahawks 29, Pats 13. What's the energy in the building, buddy?
Everybody that's passing by is like, what's going to happen with white gravy? Is he going to fuck it up like the dunking? Like, everybody's talking about it. It's nuts. Yeah.
It is on some level the most interesting thing about this game right now. Conor, so right now, tell us where you are exactly. Take us through it.
So I'm between where they just brought like the temporary podium that the Seahawks are about to stand on. I'm between that entrance to the tunnel and then the locker room, which is going to be right over there. So we're waiting for the players to kind of buzz off the field. They just shot off the cannons. They set up like temporary caution tape to wall us all off, and then they let the friends and family on. This is how soon this game was over. There was like 2 minutes left, and they were letting friends and family on the field. Like this was
one of those years.
Beatdown, man. Yeah.
We're also getting Conor. This is a rare, Arif. This is a rare sight. We're getting Conor in looks like a blazer and a collared shirt. Usually it's like a torn off at the waist Grateful Dead sweatshirt and a baseball cap. So this is a special time.
He's at the Super Bowl. He has to dress up.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have a story about, and I want to save this. We can hype it up. One of the most embarrassing things related to my wardrobe choice ever happened to me in my life a couple days ago. I sent Dan a photo,
yes.
And maybe we'll tell that on Monday. But I'm horrified now. I'm dressing up every day of my life now.
Yeah, there was a prominent, potentially next president of the United States figure that Conor was.
Yeah.
We'll save that. We'll put that in our back pocket for later this week. But you are dressed up and ready to go. From inside that building, what was the vibes? Patriots fans versus Seahawks fans. Did the crowd ever really get going in this game? It was a tough one from that perspective.
No, I said before the game, I took like a walk on the concourse. I sat on the field level and I watched the kickers warm up, and then I kind of did a jersey count, and I said about 60% Seahawks fans, 10% Patriots fans, and 30% VPs from Allstate. So that's about the breakdown we got here.
And 5% concentrated power of will.
Yeah, exactly. And what's your angle in the locker room once those doors swing open? What are you looking to find out?
Well, I think it's interesting because how Seattle played the first couple minutes of the game, because I thought New England basically showed their cards right at the beginning of the game. And forgive me if you guys brought this up, but every single passing route they were trying to undercut, and they were blitzing at like an 82% rate over the first 2 drives of the game. They needed to force a catastrophic turnover early just to keep themselves on an even playing field. And so while it messed up Seattle's rhythm a little bit, I'm really interested to see why that was happening, like why New England felt this was kind of their only path to victory. Once they went up 9 points, we were all talking about this in the press box, it felt over because New England kind of telegraphed that, right? If we can't get that big turnover, if we can't get that sack or that interception, we're kind of hosed. And, all this stuff, they tried marking Christian Gonzalez on JSN. JSN would run away from him after the huddle. Like everything that New England did, all these little flourishes that they had in the game plan, Seattle had an answer for them.
I mean, I thought it was just interesting to see that they could not stop Kenneth Walker early, and that was the first part of the game, so you kind of lose that with what the defense did late, but that's my MVP, Kenneth Walker, just because of the way, he just showed up, delivered, he was a power runner, he put that defense on ice early, and I'm with you. I thought, this game, it felt like it was just going to be 20-0, and the Patriots did not come out in the second half. There were a couple big plays, but Josh McDaniels never really solved this Seattle defense at all. From a coaching angle, New England's got to look at themselves in the mirror and say, Seattle dominated this with mostly a 4-man rush for most of the night, and what the non-productivity turned into terrible mistakes, and it was New England that couldn't afford one, and they had multiple, and the game just was cooked by 12, 13 minutes in.
And I thought, Arif, you had a great point. It was so evident here, even just kind of watching him walk on and off the field too. After that first half, Drake May just started drifting towards the teeth of the rush, and that was something that Josh McDaniels worked on with him a lot in the offseason was, you're mobile. We're going to scramble earlier. We're going to leave the pocket earlier. You can do that. You don't have to necessarily step up. And I know that he kind of taught it a little bit differently than he used to. But May, I think, just kind of got it in his head a little bit. And when you look and you're able to see it kind of from the all-22, he didn't have a ton of options. I mean, there wasn't a lot of openings here. Seattle did exactly what they do, right? They suffocated to the point where you have to bring in more bodies to max protect, and you can't have that many receivers out there. So it was one of those things where New England desperately didn't want to play into their plan, but they had to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At first, I'm actually kind of amazed at how good your signal is from inside a Super Bowl stadium.
Pretty good.
Really incredible work
Yeah.
from Levi's.
Well done, buddy.
Props to them. But also, I'm kind of curious, like, what, how the Patriots sideline kind of responded to these early struggles, because, I'm seeing, like, these tweets, like, people like, hey, Mike Vrabel is telling the offense to, like, calm down. And obviously, that's important, right? They've got no points at the first half. But, part of, we're talking about, like, how, frazzled May is. Part of bringing in someone like a Garrett Bradbury or Stephon Diggs, a veteran who's got, like, a little bit of experience, is to kind of, reset, people. Both of these players have been involved in huge comebacks. The franchise itself has been involved in huge comebacks. Mike Vrabel knows a thing or two about that. So, like, there has to be something about you when you're being led by a second-year player. There has to be something about ways for leadership to establish itself on a sideline to kind of, move that forward. Did you notice anything like along those lines?
Yeah, I was watching Vrabel, and it felt more like, I actually wrote this in the game store, which I think actually just got posted, but all of his interactions felt more like triage than motivation, right? It was very tender. It was like hands on shoulders. He had guys kind of helmets like in his armpit, and it felt more like he was protecting them from how much this hurt or how much this stung. Because, again, I mean, I think that you just reached a certain point in this game where you were out of answers, and, it was just going to be taking your medicine. And I think that's kind of the beauty of him, is that as a player, he's been on the other side of those beatdowns too. And sometimes, the best thing to do is just to hug someone and tell them you love them, and, it's going to be better next year.
There was, like, Morgan Moses was very vocal with the offensive line early, and they showed that. But you're dead on about Vrabel, because they talked about a moment when things were starting to get completely out of hand, where he went over to Drake May and got in his face in an encouraging way that you would with a second-year quarterback. But then on the next possession, when it got even uglier, he just kind of came over and slapped him on the shoulder. Like, Vrabel was not the guy that's going to call 15 timeouts to keep the game going for another 20 minutes. Like, the thing was over.
Yeah, and I think over earlier, that was the thing. It was sort of like it's like a battle like in the 1800s, where it's not technically over until like the last body falls, but when there's like 1,300 guys on one side and like 11 on the other, you kind of just know what's going to happen.
Connor, before we let you get to your task at hand, and by the way, if you're able to jump on for the legend performance, our producer, Justin Graver, the Gravedigger, White Gravy, will perform a Super Bowl / NFL rap to close things out, to close out the season. If you could jump on.
Play it for the Seahawks, right? I mean, play it for that's going to be the
Right,
crescendo of their
play it to
evening.
them.
So
Listen, I'm trying harder to get to White Gravy than I did the Counting Crows on Friday, which was awesome, by the way. But the White Gravy is bigger than this.
But before those doors swing open, we do want to check. We got to check in on the lock standings. So just stay right there a second. You were unable to get off the schneid. You had picked the Patriots, as did Mark. Mark's little flight of fancy. The Patriots, they go down in flames.
little.
Zuzzer, runs away with it. The only person to go undefeated in the playoffs. What an exclamation point for Mighty Tugboat. Mark finishes second, Gravy third, and Connor on an 8-game losing streak to end the season. I'm sorry, but we need to do some housekeeping here.
That's like inviting someone cross country to your house just to call them a loser or an asshole, But and it was this time last year that I was in the bowels of the stadium, and Justin was playing the clip of me saying, "How could you possibly think the Eagles are a Super Bowl team?" So I know my role in this. I'm just a big asshole, and that's fine. I love it,
You're a good sport. If you could join us at the end of the show, please do. If not, do your great work. And that game story that Connor's referring to is literally the Sports Illustrated Super Bowl article, the recap, which is a big deal in this industry, always has been, and Connor is a part of it, which tells you what you need to know about him. Connor, if we don't see you for the rest of the night, good luck to you getting home, and thanks for everything this week.
Yeah,
Love you guys. Good luck, White Gravy.
All right, there he goes. We're going to take our first break. And, do we have the Super Bowl MVP? Do we have that on?
It's Kenneth Walker.
It is Kenneth Walker.
Good. They did the right thing.
It would have been an easy one. It probably was an easy one, really, but because there's a couple of places you could have gone, obviously. As Arif is saying, you could have given it to maybe Witherspoon. You could have given it for the defensive score, but you probably wouldn't do that. You could have given it to the quarterback just because, but Darnold didn't do enough. But Kenneth Walker, you could, man, Jason Myers had accounted for 17 points in this game, 5 for 5 and 2 PATs.
Jason Myers is a good one. If I were going to give it to a specialist, I would give it to Michael Dixon. He actually saved one of Jason Myers' kicks with an incredible.
And that would have been the right way to end this season.
Yes,
to give
and
the
if you
Super Bowl
listen to
MVP
the
to a
preview,
kicker.
Yeah.
By the way, I had 27-13 Seahawks as the final score, Ceci. I don't know if we're tracking these things.
Yeah, you mentioned it before we jumped on the air. You've mentioned it
But I
again
didn't know
to
if
a
you
broader
heard it,
audience.
so I just want to make sure you know.
Yes, I heard it. Yes, we have put up your lock standings. We've put up
I
your
won that
score
as
prediction.
well. And I did use...
And the Patriots have crumbled into dust. So
yes,
it's another one of these Sundays.
But by the way, Sam Darnold won the Super Bowl for a different team, Mark. So let's calm down about everything coming up Zuzzer today. I will say that the special teams, which we talked about on Thursday, being a big part of the win for the Seahawks, absolutely was. Dixon pinned him inside the 5, I believe, twice. They didn't let Marcus Jones break out for a big game-changing field flipper. And, yeah, Myers hit every kick. I mean, if Myers misses a couple of those kicks, it's a totally different game. Yeah. But that special teams group was nails all season. Just a great effort in all three phases.
I think the game stop for anyone who cares about the NFL is you go to that kicker club after this because Jason Myers is going to be.
Oh, he's going to be.
He ain't paying for a drink for the next offseason.
No, not at all. I think he set the NFL record for field goals also this season. So it was a big year for Myers, or he was in that category. But anyway, let's take a break. When we get back, maybe we'll check in with our chat section because the chat room is going off here. Super Bowl 60 in the books. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. When we started this podcast, it felt like we had to figure out everything out on our own. Scripts, setup, logo, scheduling, and a million other little decisions that kept piling up every day. It was a little bit overwhelming, and honestly, it felt a bit lonely wearing all these hats at once. That's why having Shopify as a business partner makes such a difference.
Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. From household names to brands just getting off the ground, you can get started with your own design studio, choosing from hundreds of ready-to-use templates to build a beautiful online store that matches your brand perfectly.
That's right, Mark. And when it comes to efficiency, Shopify has helpful AI tools that can write product descriptions, create page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Need to get the word out? Shopify makes it easy to launch email and social media campaigns like you have a full marketing team behind you. And if you ever get stuck, their award-winning 24/7 support is always there to help.
Yeah, with everything from inventory to payments to analytics, all in one place, running your business has never been smoother.
So start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/HTC. Go to shopify.com/HTC. That's shopify.com/HTC.
Finding a doctor you actually like feels like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone in-network, nearby, and with open appointments, but that's just the baseline. You also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, calms your nerves, tells you it's going to be okay, maybe even still gives you a lollipop, even though you're a full-grown adult, Dan.
Oh, yeah, Mark. And guess what? The dream doctor does exist, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states. Whether you need primary care, dental, dermatology, eye care, or one of 200-plus specialties, you can search by specialty or symptom and build the care team that's right for you.
Absolutely, Dan. You can book in-person visits or video visits, read thousands of verified patient reviews, see real-time availability, and book instantly. No phone tag. Appointments typically happen within 24 to 72 hours, and sometimes even the same day. Dan and I use ZocDoc, and you should too.
Absolutely. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/heed to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/heed. ZocDoc.com/heed. Thanks, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this message.
Sam stops, looks, throws, got a man wide open. Touchdown, Seahawks! It is A.J. Barner. He could not wait to get out of that hotel. Talked to him yesterday. He said, I got to go hit somebody. A.J., how about catching a touchdown, too? He does from 16 out.
Steve Rabel with the call. The Patriots go down, baby. Turn this up in my headphones. Come on, Sessler, you love it.
I mean, you look like a Lego figure on LSD right now, which I'm loving that, doing that.
Thank you very much. Yes. Sam Darnold's one touchdown pass in the game. Arif Hasan playing within himself, and the defense doing the rest. What do we think about now that we have the full picture of the New England Patriots season, Arif? Like, how will you remember this team, and how do you separate, or maybe you don't separate, the results of this game? Did it inform you about anything else before the season? Like, how do you break it all down in that beautiful brain of yours?
It kind of depends on how the rest of the legacy plays out, right? Because we remember the 2001 Patriots way differently now, knowing how they established that dynasty. Because that 2001 Patriots team, having won, would have been considered a fluke team, just a crazy fluke team if they didn't repeat in 03, 04, and so on, right? This team will be defined by the successes of later teams. As like Dan Marino and Dan Campbell have both, indicated, it's hard to come back. You're not guaranteed a future where you repeat, right? The 49ers have been having a difficult time despite having one of the best teams in the NFL over the past several seasons, right? So how we remember it is going to be changed by how we experience the following seasons. But if we put it kind of in isolation, I mean, this is a team that is, I think, I'm not going to say equal parts luck and talent. There was a lot of talent involved in this team, but we're going to remember kind of like how important strength of schedule is, right? Even though, of course, they, in the championship game, were up against the Broncos, who I believe had the second weakest strength of schedule. So it's not as if it's like a one-for-one thing, but we're going to remember that. We're going to remember kind of how many rookies were on this team, rookies and second-year players. I think something like 6 or 7 rookies played prominent roles for this Patriots team throughout the year, including the left tackle and the left guard. Personally, I would push both of them inside, have Will Campbell play left guard, have Jared Wilson play center. That's probably not going to happen, if I'm being honest, but this is a really young team in a lot of key areas, and so we'll probably remember this team as one that had a couple of lucky breaks go their way, especially during the playoffs, had enough talent to take advantage of those lucky breaks, which is a key thing when we're talking about luck, but ultimately was probably not as good a team as that Rams team that the Seahawks just barely put away in the championship games, which continues a long tradition of a lot of these championship games being more competitive than the Super Bowls, right, that have preceded them. We've only recently been treated, I think, to a lot of Super Bowls that have been as close or as entertaining, and even then, some of these Super Bowls just haven't been. So I think a lot of those are going to be parts of how we remember this Patriots team.
I would push back, though, on this idea that it's a fluke team that got here, because going forward, because how will they be remembered? There is more to come, but I totally believe in the coaching staff. Now, they did not find answers tonight against what is, again, like a top 5 defense of all time. I don't think anyone else would have either, but I totally believe in Mike Vrabel going forward. There's no doubt that Drake May is a franchise quarterback who, can he get here again? We have too many examples that may never happen again. Like, it's just, that's the way life goes in the NFL. You may never get back here, but I don't look at this team and say, wow, this was a mirage. This was a fantastical creation that has no meaning. In the playoffs, though, the way that Drake May melted down tonight, they faced 2 other quarterbacks that melted down big time in Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud, and then also a third quarterback that wasn't on the field. That's about as fortunate as you can get. The fact that their defense is very good as well, but this journey is not fraudulent. I won't buy into that. There's things to go forward, but I always thought even if they had won tonight, there would have been a lot of work for the Patriots to do in this offseason, not unlike Belichick's first Super Bowl team with the Patriots.
Isn't there an in-between? Because, Mark, you said that people that say this season has no meaning or they're fraudulent. No, that's not true. But I also think
I'm just not
tonight,
going there.
Yeah, but also tonight they were totally overmatched. And I'll push back. I don't think it's a top 5 defense of all time that we saw today in Seattle. I think it was an NFL season. No, I think it's a really good season. Let me finish. It was a great defense, right? In an NFL season where maybe there wasn't like a lot of great teams. So a great defense looks like a magnificent defense. Like I don't think this is the Legion of Boom defense or the 2000 Ravens or the 85 Bears. I think it's a excellent defense that crushed an AFC team that was not in the same weight class. And I think it's okay to say that. Like the Patriots probably, if you played out the scenarios of this season 20 times, I don't know how many times this Patriots team gets to this point. But they did, and they kind of got found out in this game, and there's a lot to build on. And we talked about, the Patriots are way ahead of schedule. It's like, sure, but now you get as we spin forward for New England, like now you're going to get the other side of that. Because now you're going to get a first-place schedule coming out of this season, and you're going to have the challenges of being the team that made it to the Super Bowl, see Dan Marino in 1984, and now you're expected to be back. So they kind of get lumped now from these overachieving young team on the rise with this brand-new head coach to a whole new set of expectations and probably a much more difficult schedule. So they're going to be a really interesting team to predict next year and also see what they do in this offseason and how they see, Arif, what do we need to do to get better, because they could either just make little tweaks here and there because they think they have the team, or they could do something a little more extravagant. We're going to find out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the attitude that the Patriots have, which I'm not in the building, I can only kind of guess at the way that they think about things. But, what we understand of Mike Vrabel, what we understand of that front office, I think that they'll attack these problems with a certain degree of like seriousness, right? Like I think that they'll understand that there are problems that need to be fixed, right? They'll take a look at their rookie left tackle and see, hey, was it just a rookie, or can we rely on this guy long term, or do we need to make another move along the offensive line? How confident are we in the center? Because the center was a really critical component to making sure that we won all these protection checks. But in terms of actually pass protecting, that might have been a weak. I think they'll be a sort of an aggressive about it, and I think that they know that they have to be because as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, they've lost more Super Bowls than any other franchise has, and so they know that just being in a Super Bowl is not a signal that you've arrived and you can kind of rest on your laurels. It's kind of funny. It reminds me of like Nick Saban said this back while he was coaching, a number of years ago. He just won another national championship, and of course he was ticked off. He was like, "Yeah, but I'm behind on recruiting," and that's kind of where the Patriots are, right? They're behind on a lot of the process that the coaches need to be involved in. They have to go right from this to the combine, and I think that they're going to take this with a degree of seriousness because they know that a lot of Super Bowl participants don't even appear in the playoffs the next year. The fact that you're a young team is not a guarantee that you'll improve or that you'll make it there. And I think that they also understand that maybe we'll push back against the luck narrative a little bit, but they did benefit from a weak schedule, which they may not benefit from the next year, right? And so I think that they'll be pretty aggressive about it. They might want to pair somebody with Christian Gonzalez. They might want to be really assertive about pass catchers, like we've been talking about, that there's just not enough weapons for Drake May to throw to specifically. They might want to take a look at that offensive line, maybe move Mike Onwenu to the best area for him because he's an outstanding player that you just want to find a best place for. But I think that they'll have to be aggressive, and I think that they know that they've got that ability, especially because now they can really sell themselves to free agents because of like, hey, we were just in the Super Bowl. Don't you want to be here?
And, talking about the defense for Seattle and where they stack up, did you guys see Kyle Shanahan on the pregame show for NBC? Yeah, first of all, looking really sad. He, within seconds of him being introduced, he addresses the elephant in the room. He's like, yeah, I've been to this game a lot. It's some really tough moments in my life. I was like, oh, man, dude. You can avoid. We don't need to think about it today. Neither do you, buddy. Just take this paycheck. But he had this quote. I think there were 2 Super Bowl defenses this year, and it was Seattle and Houston. When I say that, it means they're capable of winning all on their own if the other side of the ball, special teams and offense, don't mess it up. And I think if you really want to break it down to the simplest form, in the playoffs, you saw what happened. Like Houston, for instance, against New England. Their defense did everything that they could do against the Patriots. And what happened? C.J. Stroud in the offense fouled it up. In the AFC title game, the Denver defense was awesome against New England in that blizzard. That last scramble by Drake May notwithstanding. But a big Jarrett Stidham turnover and the offense unable to push anything across after the second drive. It was this game where the defense again stepped up. The Seattle defense, but this time New England didn't get bailed out by the offense of the Seahawks making any big mistakes, or the special teams, which never makes mistakes. And they just met a complete team, and they were not ready for it at this stage. Gravy.
Reputation.
Oops, that was supposed to be my grave dog. We're alive.
It's live, baby.
Okay, Justin, let's keep
Oopsie daisy.
It sounds like someone's a little nervous about their rap performance coming up in about 30 minutes. What's up, bud?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in to say that we got a bunch of super chats here. Maybe we can run through some quickly. Most of them are just comments, not exactly questions.
And before you do that, I just want to say shout out to everybody in the chat with us right now. We are we got over close to 1,400 people watching us right now. I know we're going to have tens of thousands that will watch the show after this, and you guys giving us the support and the juice. We love you guys. So go ahead. Mark doesn't feel the same, but that's how I feel.
And I'll spend the entire show being spoken for. I very much appreciate them.
All right. Thank you, Mark. All right. What do we got?
Junior Nugget says, I had 2 surgeries, 1 planned, 1 emergent this week, and my urinary tract is still performing better than the Patriots.
Hey, that's
great.
I mean, that's his $5. So.
You're intact. Nice.
Thank you, Junior
What else we
Nugget.
got?
Voltor, lads, from Debate
Emergent.
Club to HTC, you've created the best pod on the planet, sending best wishes from Chislehurst in England. Looking forward to Legends Rap to close out the season.
That
Thank
place
you,
is on
Voltor.
fire right now.
I would have guessed that
Chislehurst.
was a sausage. I'm
Chislehurst.
excited to learn that that's a town.
That's new to me, and I love it. What else we got?
Carolyn
one of the
Lynn
proud
Wu
41.
says, can't believe Sam is raising Lombardi before Josh and Lamar. What a world, with a little bee hive
Karen.
emoji.
Isn't that crazy? Is it one of the great comeback stories and resilient stories? And it does, Mark, it does talk to how a career is long, and we shouldn't be so quick to write people off. And now here's Sam Darnold at the top of the world.
And it was interesting. They made a comment that, and you could feel this during this whole Super Bowl week, that so many other players in that fraternity of players just admire what Darnold did. That we get that they would, and that's sort of Pat, and of course he's a likable guy. There's nothing about him that's offensive, and so easy to root for. But the job is you're getting ripped left and right with your mistakes. Quarterbacks being teared down after 1 or 2 seasons. Will they ever become anything? And Darnold's kind of the poster boy to say, F you, be patient, wait, don't tell me where I'll wind up.
Pats fan Ben, if you throw a flag for TJLT for moving ½ inch, but don't throw a flag for 3 defense linemen being offsides, that's all I need to know. Someone's got to decode this one for me.
I think TJ is the. So if you throw a flag for the left tackle moving half an inch, but when Will Campbell kind of moved back, his heels rocked back, and then they called a false start on him. I think.
I mean, Ben, I know you're in your feelings a little bit, but I don't think that decided the game. But thank you buddy, for your support.
That was the only penalty in the first half, I think.
Yeah.
Posted the moment Mark cursed New England on the sub.
I mean,
Junior Nugget again. We appreciate you.
it's 3 months ago, and they made the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's a curse or you ran into a real dark force called the Seattle Seahawks.
Another one of the 41, Ashley. Who is the Seattle MVP? Walker. Yeah, we talked about it. Kenneth Walker. Who would have been yours, Arif, if people are just jumping on the stream?
Yeah. So I would have given it to Devin Witherspoon, who I thought had an outstanding game, taking away their weapons. Obviously, with cornerbacks, really difficult because some of their value is stuff not seen on the broadcast tape. But then, of course, he shows up. I said that before he got that sack, and now I felt really vindicated. He's a really good option, and I swear to God, unironically, Michael Dixon. I swear he absolutely deserves, that level of Graver throwing up the horns for Texas alum Michael Dixon. He was outstanding. He had 2, not just inside the 20, inside the 5. He saved one of those field goals with excellent, catching the long snap that had been errant. Just a really outstanding performance. But I don't think you could go wrong with Kenneth Walker, who was amazing, outstanding, showed not just patience, but burst. And I think the thing about running backs that show patience is that you have to have a lot of one-step acceleration, which is really difficult. And that's why they don't teach running backs to be as slow to the line as Walker was in this game, because it's really difficult to have that kind of acceleration off the jump. And he had that, and that was all the difference for a lot of these runs. The ability to press lanes or wait and choose, just really outstanding football.
And it caps like a 3-game postseason where Walker has been playing at a completely different level. And if it's a night where right, Darnold didn't make the key mistake, but their offense was pretty muted. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Rashid Shaheed combined for 54 yards. There was the deep shot to Rashid that could have, or the game was essentially cooked, but could have truly ended it had he caught that. They went on to score. But there were a lack of big plays tonight. So Walker doing what he did had a lot of meaning early, and I thought set the tone and kind of closed the door on New England.
I don't know if we brought it up on Thursday, but the special teams coordinator of the Seahawks is Jay Harbaugh, son of Jim. And who knows, maybe he is the next Harbaugh head coach. Junior Nugget again. Who wore it better, Mac Collins or James Pierce Jr.? All right, well, listen, James Pierce Jr. got himself into a lot of trouble over the weekend. That is bad news for the Falcons. Remember, the Falcons don't have a first-round pick this year. They're trying to reboot the operation with a new coaching staff and new front office, and now one of their first-round picks from last year has a domestic incident and a police chase, and I believe the authorities had a quote like he's lucky to be alive. He's facing multiple felony charges, so that is a major thing to watch coming out of it in Atlanta. Mac Hollins. Do you have the clip, Justin, of Mac Hollins, his pregame walk up? He's in like a prisoner outfit, like a
barefoot as always, of course.
Barefoot, Hannibal Lecter, and I guess I just have to say, like, happy we don't have to think about Mac Hollins' day anymore to everyone who celebrates.
Okay.
If he really had the juice, if he really had it going on, he would have been able to get somebody to wheel him out, right?
Yeah, I don't get this one. I'm sure there's something to it, but
You can't go half Hannibal Lecter.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
The well going dry on Super Bowl Sunday is a tough one. But he went big, and he ends up going home. Look, there's even, I see that guy. He's like, what is this? I can't even get behind it. I can't even get.
I don't mind waving
the people
goodbye
there
to
are
like.
just sick of it already.
I don't mind waving goodbye to 80% of these like fashionista walk-ins to begin with. I think, I'm not having enough fun, but it's like some of these, like some of this stuff is just like, can you just go to your locker room and like get ready for the game before you guys
think
get
of,
blanked in the Super
I
Bowl?
will make an exception for Joe Burrow. I think his fits are outstanding, and I want to see them all the time.
What'd you guys think of Bad Bunny?
I thought I like his music, and I thought he did exactly what you'd ask him to do. It was Kenneth Walker on his version of things.
Yeah. I so wish that I could go back in time and tell my high school self to take Spanish, because I don't understand Spanish, and that's such a disadvantage right now, just generally, but also specifically for the Super Bowl. I thought it was, pretty good music. I wish I could understand it, but the parts that I could kind of interpret, the stagecraft, the camera work, outstanding stuff. The cultural references to history. I had a couple of Puerto Rican friends actually text me during the show. They were in tears at how much kind of culture and history was represented during that halftime show, and that means a lot. And one spot that I did understand is when he said "God bless America," and then he named a bunch of American countries, South American and North American countries. And so, and at the end you hear Mexico, United States, Canada, but you also hear Bolivia and Peru and Venezuela, and then of course he shouts out Puerto Rico, because of course he does. That was really outstanding, and I thought, the audio for a lot of these Super Bowl shows always falls like a little bit flat unless you've got like a special circumstance. Like the audio for the Kendrick show was actually quite good, but and that one, the audio engineering itself, which is really tough to do live, as White Gravy knows. The audio engineering for that could have been a little bit better, but that is up there with one of the better halftime shows I've seen.
We've been to a bunch of Super Bowls, and what you realize when you're at the game is this is not for you in the stadium.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have.
It looks bizarre.
Watching it on TV, and now there's a cornfield in the middle of the field, or whatever it was.
Sugar.
Exactly. Sugar. Okay, sugar.
Yeah.
And I think back to like what's my earliest memory of a halftime show, and it's Michael Jackson at the Rose Bowl in '93 might be the first one that I remember, and a lot of if you talk about too, if there's such
Prince
a thing
94,
exists,
yeah.
that it's like that for Super Bowl halftime show historians. That's kind of like the first halftime show that before when the light bulb went off for the NFL. Is like, oh, we can make this a big thing with the biggest pop stars in the world. Like you look back at that show, and by comparison, where it's just him on a stage with like he shoots out of a riser and there's some sparklers to what the production is now. Yeah, I would say feel old, which I do a lot, but like because it's a first halftime show where I didn't know any of the songs, which is true. But also it's because it was a different language. It's not necessarily for me, but I know a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I know Donald Trump didn't enjoy it. My favorite part of his tweets, I was waiting how long it would take before we got the Trump tweet, and he writes all the things you would expect. The best part, though, was the last line. He's like, oh, and by the way, there's new kickoff rules for the birds.
Yeah, dude, he's been on that for like a while.
Yeah,
like,
he's been on that.
Pounding the table about the
beat.
kickoff rule.
Yeah, and like it's a good kickoff. It just looks weird. It's a great kickoff.
I've come down in that realm as well, that like I don't like the box. I don't like having to there's like 3 different sections to the rule
right.
to understand.
Like, understand
but
that.
all the data backs up that they did what their goal was to turn the kickoff into a play, and they have. So I guess I disagree with the president on that as well. All right, what else do we want to talk about in the game, Arif? Anything else that jumped out to you specifically about this one-sided contest?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a couple of previews on YouTube where there's a bunch of really great football content. I was watching Thinking Football and Brett Coleman. Shout out to that. And one thing that I had kind of noticed is that, a lot of people were pointing out that the way Seattle tends to rush the passer is that they tend to rush, for the most part, with 4. Now, Seattle did blitz a decent amount for themselves in this game, but it creates a lot of scramble opportunities, which, as Conor was pointing out, when he was meeting us in that tunnel, like they didn't take the scramble opportunities for May, and we know that throughout the playoffs, May has been his deadliest when he's been scrambling. He hasn't been able to throw as well, and they were doing a pretty decent job of clogging up some of these lanes on those pressures, but like. To me, if he had kind of loosened up a little bit and scrambled a lot more, this would have been a genuinely extraordinarily close game, and I think that might have been a little bit of the difference. Like that's something that I think deserved to be kind of pointed out, is that there were opportunities there, even though the receivers weren't necessarily open, even though the pressure was kind of getting to you, that you just weren't taking the lanes that were available to you. And I think that was the difference, because like a lot of the stuff, Seattle needed to do more double moves against the way the Patriots were playing things aggressively. They tried that, it didn't work. Seattle then tried some screen passes. They were really poorly designed or poorly executed. That didn't work. So the Patriots were really on top of their P's and Q's defensively. But I think offensively, there were missed opportunities even as Seattle was executing at a really high level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we saw Drake May, even though he was under duress and a bit of a turnover machine in the playoffs, his feet were the differentiator. And I mean, and it's another thing that this was a Super Bowl. I thought, like, here's some key things about New England, and they played out tonight. And if you can get Drake May scrambled, mentally baffled early on, which they did, he's got to make quick decisions and bad decisions. Like that running part of his game disappeared. But I also think that I want to learn more about what he was seeing on the field in the coming days. But that Seattle found a way to make him feel like those runs weren't available. I mean, this was a masterclass. And I do think they'll go down as a top 5 defense based on what might happen next year. But for this Seattle defense to grow this quickly under Mike McDonald and put this kind of game on tape tonight against an offense that's not stunning, and I get that, but they absolutely ended it early. And like I just thought that to watch John Schneider, Mike McDonald build this thing in 2 years, because there were a lot of questions about Seattle a year ago, to go from there to here in one season is one of the bigger NFL stories in the last decade or so, because it happened so rapidly inside of the toughest division in football.
I mean, is there a more anonymous Super Bowl winning coach in recent memory than Mike McDonald?
No, and he actually, I liked this bit of study that he won over the team early in the year, because you're right, and he's not Dan Campbell. He's not a big physical, imposing guy. And in fact, he really kind of shied away from speaking about himself in interviews and kind of mastering the public speaking part of it. And he told his team, like, I need to get better at that to represent us. And that's a small little thing, but that kind of vulnerability, because he seems very humble and vulnerable, and that way, not vulnerable, weak, but just like real. And I think it won over the team, because these guys, we talked about the Patriots being this way and other teams, like the Seahawks team just reminds me of that team from a decade ago where like they've got each other's back. Well, that team fell apart at some point in their togetherness, but this team is like another version of that, and they're a representative of their coach. It has a lot to do with Mike Macdonald, and it's just happened very quickly.
You mentioned the last Seahawks champion before tonight, and that was, of course, the team that beat the Broncos. And was that the Manning team where Manning threw 55 touchdowns? Like, that was an all-time Broncos offense. So what they did in that game, the exclamation point on their season, will go down in history. Like, that's the thing. I definitely don't want to come out of this episode being like I'm trying to downplay the historic nature of the Seattle defense. But I did see them get taken to the woodshed a little bit in the NFC title game, and they survived that game thanks to Darnold mostly. So I just struggle because it was kind of a funky year. Like, are they at the level of those all-time great teams defensively? I can't say that, but certainly they were with Houston, obviously as head and shoulders, I think, above the rest of the league this year. And they're just so well coached in all phases. And Macdonald, I think one of the things he said is he realized he had to improve in terms of how he communicated and represented himself with the media, and that helped him with his team as well. So, I mean, it's just for a team that's up for sale, right? It's an very interesting time for a team to go up for sale as a Super Bowl champion that seems to be locked and loaded. Connor talked about it on the Thursday show. Like, you have, or on the earlier last week, that you have Darnold on a very team-friendly year-to-year contract, a great young nucleus. You have Schneider, a guy who was, by the way, the GM the last time they won the Super Bowl and got to the Super Bowl the next year, still there, and he's in his bag. This is a team that is set up. I know we say this a lot for Super Bowl teams. We said it about the Eagles like a year ago today, basically. But this feels like a team that's set up to contend again next year and potentially even get better. So it's good times to be a Seahawks fan.
Yeah, I think on the all-time defenses list, I think they deserve to enter the conversation entering the postseason as one of the maybe the top 5 defenses of all time. If I think we had seen a little bit more against the Rams, we would have a little bit more of that conversation. But we saw such punishing performances from like the 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Buccaneers, right? Where the 2015 and 2013 Super Bowl winners, right? Where it is a little bit difficult, not to mention going back beyond the 80s, right? It is a little difficult to place them on that pedestal without some of those postseason performances. But I do think they deserve to enter the conversation about where among all-time defenses they rank. When you take a look at, their EPA per play or their DVOA, which is where I think the best argument can be made, when you adjust their performance against opponents, they performed this well. They certainly deserve that level of acclaim. I think what always holds back some of these conversations is that when we remember the 85 Bears, we can remember a lot of names on that team. When we remember the 2000 Ravens, we can remember a lot of names on that team. People don't remember the fact that the Tennessee Titans in 2000 were also as good a defense as that Ravens team, and the only name we remember from that, like, unless you're really, a great old head, is like Albert Hainsworth, right? And he didn't have the best following, that doesn't... No,
he got the bag from Washington, and things got ugly real quick,
Lost his fitness test.
Javon Curse, the freak.
Yeah. But I think that they deserve that. But I think as time goes on, we'll remember some of these names with the level of acclaim, and maybe we'll backcast and say, hey, remember that? That was one of the greatest, Devon Witherspoon, one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time, if he continues to have this kind of career, right? Or, if Boy Mafe, continues to get better, Byron Murphy, or any of those things. I
think Legion of Boom, though, like in their first year, it was a lot of new faces. There was a lot of youth that weren't in the league before. If they do this, if they come in close to doing this again, Seattle, these guys are going to be household names. 3 or 4 of them. You can see the table being set for that. Go do it again, and we're having a different conversation.
And great defenses close out games. We had the interception run back that obviously set off the celebration, but the game really ends. It's 19-0 early in the fourth quarter, and then, as we talked about, May and Hollins hook up for 2 long receptions, including a touchdown. It's 19-7. And then the Seahawks come out on the field after an initial first down on a completion to Shaheed. They go 3 and out and kick it back away. And now the Patriots have the ball down 19-7, 10:40 to go in the fourth quarter. This is their time. Should they have went for 2 after the first touchdown?
Yes.
Probably, yes. They didn't, so it's 19-7. They take over. May misses a wide-open Austin Hooper. May missed a lot of open guys, but nobody was more open than Hooper in that spot. That's a big play at the 4-yard line. This was after another beautiful Dixon punt. Then May to Stevenson for 13 yards. Incomplete to Mac Hollins. Never had a chance. Hunter Henry short for 4 yards. Then you get a 16-yard run by May on a scramble, 7-yard pass. Now they're at the 37-yard line, but because of the Dixon punt and the coverage, after all this movement, they're still at only the 37. And then the May gets fooled on the coverage, throws the ball up for grabs. Jordan Love picks it off, ends the game. Great defenses close it out. So the offense showed a little bit of weakness there after the touchdown, and the defense said, no, this is our game. It's going to be Seattle tonight. That's what great defenses do. All-time great defenses? Well, that's a matter of debate. And that's what's fun about sports. Mark? You know, Mark?
You hush immediately.
That's what's great about sports, Mark. All right, we're going to take one more break. Don't go anywhere, because now it's about to get crazy. Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to check in with a couple other things, and then our version of the halftime show, which will also be done in Spanish. Justin, I forgot to tell you that.
Yes. No,
Prepare now.
No.
The Gravedigger, a.k.a. White Gravy, a.k.a. Legend, will do his live performance summing up the 2025 season. After this break, stay right here or run for your life. Everyone wants their money to do more, but without the stress, the jargon, or the confusion. That's why TELUS feels refreshing.
Yeah, TELUS started out as a property management app, helping owners and managers collect rent, communicate with tenants, and stay organized. But now TELUS goes beyond that, helping everyday people grow their money.
Yes, Mark, TELUS is reimagining how everyday people can grow by offering a high-yield savings wallet powered by real estate. The app includes a digital wallet designed to help your money go to work for you while keeping everything simple and transparent.
Exactly, Dan. You can move funds in and out easily, track your daily growth clearly, and access your money whenever you need it.
And the best part? There are no processing fees, no locked up funds, and no fees to open or use TELUS. You can also earn better rates by building positive habits like learning through TELUS daily trivia or simply setting goals for yourself.
Learn more at telusapp.com or just search TELUS, TELLUS, in the Apple App Store or Android Store. TELUS, earn more daily.
TELUS is not a bank. TELUS is not FDIC insured.
3rd down and 5. Stevenson in the backfield now with a wide slot to the left side. May steps up in the pocket. He gets hit. Ball is on the ground. Seahawks fall on it. Murphy. Seahawks have it. Byron Murphy comes up with the football as May is hit. Murphy and the defense run all the way to the far end zone, which has the Seahawks logo. Seahawks get the ball.
Steve Rabel, Seattle Sports 710 with the call one more time. I did want to get a little Zolak, the human sentient Powerade bottle, call from him, but there wasn't really an opportunity. So Rabel it is throughout today's program.
I don't want to be with the human Gatorade bottle after a loss like this. I think
Powerade. He wishes he was Gatorade.
Yeah, Powerade bottle man. Like I feel like he might be the last person in town I want to encounter and spend time with and download on this operation. But there are probably a lot of morose, sad, sober.
I'm picturing like Zolak and like Portnoy and Mark Wahlberg all just like walking out of that building, head down.
There is sort of like an unlikable beeline to this crew.
Right?
What's that, Arif?
Portnoy's not allowed in the building, right?
He was there. I guess they lifted the ban of Barstool employees. He was there, but it was not. I think one of our competitors right now is the Bill Simmons show. I'm sure that's probably a active huge party over there. The live listen of that one. Maybe I'll swing over and check that out after this wraps. Mark, any final thoughts, closing thoughts about the game or anything in your notes? You want to empty out that notebook?
More just from a what's next feeling. I kept thinking, it just didn't feel like a Super Bowl to me. Not to take away what happened by the end and what Seattle did, but it doesn't change no matter what it looked like aesthetically. It was not a classic. It was just a beatdown, which I think is fine. I can get on board with that. But it doesn't change the fact that if you're Sam Darnold and you're Mike McDonald and you're John Schneider and the Seahawks, you're kind of playing with house money right now. This just happened and no one expected it. But if you're Drake May, you are one of these quarterbacks where it's you've still got the Bills in your division. You're going to get that first place schedule, like you mentioned. It's going to be, you're not on it. You're not going to be a surprise to anyone at this point. This is a team with a lot of work to do. There are holes here. It's going to get a lot tougher for everyone around them to just roll off regular season wins against a bunch of tomato cans. So do you get back to this, and how, and what do you do this offseason? I think New England's offseason will be one of the more fascinating things to track starting right now because, as to Arif's point, you are behind the curve.
Yeah, I can't really get outside of that kind of, what are the question marks they're going to more aggressively address and how they're going to, generate competition. But I do think that they're an attractive destination for free agents because of, this run. Whether or not you kind of I just saw a stat EPA per play, Drake May had the worst run of any quarterback with at least 3 postseason games in the postseason. That's going to have to be fixed. But I do think that when we take a look at it from Seattle's side, obviously you've accomplished the goal, right? You did the thing. You then have to also continue to make choices to continue to be competitive and figure out what you're going to do. You figured out the interior offensive line for the first time in the franchise's history, it seems like. And you've got, more from your offensive tackles where there were injury concerns than you ever thought. But it is a team that benefited a little bit from injury luck. So are you going to, round out that depth? Because I do like the depth on the defensive line, but I don't know where else that depth aside from running back is there for you. Are you going to pair someone with Jackson Smith and Jigba? Are you going to see if you can get a little bit more juice at tight end? Not to diminish A.J. Barner, who had an outstanding game, but if you can get a little bit more out of that tight end position, I think you're happy at safety. Obviously, I think you're happy mostly at cornerback. I think, there was questions about Reek Willen being traded before the season. Those questions are kind of going away, but in 3 cornerback sets, are you happy with Josh Jobe? There's a lot of question marks that they have to answer too, and I think the only area where they can feel really comfortable are in the trenches. Now, of all the areas to feel comfortable, that might be the best, right? But there are areas where you do have to be a little bit more aggressive, and you don't have to worry. Sam Darnold obviously is a veteran quarterback, but you're going to have him for a couple more years. It's not as if it's a 39-year-old or something like that. But you got to start cogitating about quarterback as well, maybe long term. But I think New England is just a much more interesting offseason question, and I am really curious about how they're going to approach the offensive line, whether or not they're going to get edge defenders, what they're going to do, at linebacker beyond, kind of the non-traditional linebackers that they have, if they're going to pair some with Christian Gonzalez and so on.
My final thought is the one that's been on my mind for these 2 weeks. I think you have a Schefter tweet here. From seeing ghosts to seeing silver and his reflection. Okay, Adam. He was a writer once upon a time, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my God.
Maybe take a second pass at that one. Seahawks QB Sam Darnold is now a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And if you're listening to the show, that's an image of him from the famous Seeing Ghosts night as a Jet rookie, and now where he is as a Super Bowl champion. It's a weird one. I remember being really down in the dumps when the Malcolm Butler Super Bowl was also Darrelle Revis getting a ring with the Patriots. That one really stung. This one doesn't feel the same, but yeah, it's just crazy to believe. Again, this game was an anticlimactic finish. The NFC title game really was the Super Bowl with the Rams and the Seahawks clearly feeling like the 2 best teams in the league. But how weird and crazy that Sam Darnold is the quarterback of the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks.
The season-long story is certainly better than the Super Bowl story.
Yeah. And Mark, I think about that cozy 2018, April 23rd, when Baker Mayfield was taken by the Browns at 1 and Sam Darnold at 3.
Sam Darnold!
And we sat at that bar and took a shot and thought about our futures together as bright. Well, they both had great careers, and now one of them has a ring, but it evaded our teams. But listen, everybody's 0-0 now, Mark.
We should have kept drinking. I
should
say
have
this,
never left
like
that bar.
it's a great study though. Quickly, that like Sam Darnold or any quarterback that gets drafted this year and on a bad team, and it's like the whole thing is surrounding the Drake Mays of the world early on, 700 days into their pro career, with people around them and coaching that can support them. And these bad teams can't do that, and they'll never wind up in the Super Bowl with the Sam Darnolds of the world. They're going to go to another team and succeed somewhere where organizationally they can support the most important position in sports. So I'm a little kind of mercilessly am not going to point to my own team and say, why can't you do it? Like, I can see why you can't do it. And I can see why Seattle can do it.
You know, the Darnold hive is now silver, and you could see your reflection in
Glowing.
it. Tying it all together, Arif.
Oh man, that would have gone a lot better if I don't know if it was Photoshop or AI, but my creative direction, which I'm a writer, not
Go
a
ahead.
graphic designer. My creative direction would have been to have the ghosts of Sam Darnold past handing him the Lombardi.
Oh,
so
that's
that
good.
He's
There
seeing
you go.
ghosts, but is positive now, right? And it symbolizes how all the quote unquote failures in his journey ultimately led to his success, right? Which is a lesson for us all, right? That our failures kind of teach us more than our successes.
Well said, well put. And maybe we'll be watching Fernando Mendoza lifting the Lombardi for the Los Angeles Rams in 5 years. You just never know.
You never know.
You never know. All right, before we head to our version of the halftime show, which is really the end of the game show with the performance by Legend, just a thank you to everyone. This was our second full season off the mothership, doing our own thing. And Mark, we kind of grew across the board this year as a show. I thought both in the type of show we were doing, right down to the playoff run, and Arif being a stud for us these last two games, two episodes, to the audience's growth, both on the audio side and on the YouTube. It was a great year for Heed the Call, and we thank everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think like our show, dating back to any incarnation, beginning with the debate club that Dan and I did, which was a 10-minute little fun fest tacked on to Dave Damashek's longer podcast back in the day. Wouldn't be here without him. But it's always been about like, well, wait, does this work from a chemistry angle? We're not like four dudes in a television studio staring at our phone during an ad break. Like, we're chopping it up. We're talking all the time. And like I think in the second season with the Arifs and the Connors and everyone else that we bring on, it's like we bring on and talk to people that we want to talk to and hang out with. And it's just kind of building this roster where it's like, no matter who comes on, it's going to be a fun time. And it's the most important part of the family are the listeners. If they were to be deep sixed in some horrific earth accident, the show is gone. The show is
Horrific
over,
earth
so.
accident. All listeners gone.
So we love them. We appreciate you.
Are you?
everyone.
Is that a long way of saying, Mark, that the game is finally slowing down for us in year two?
I think it slowed down a little bit in year two. I mean, we don't know if our employer agrees, but we would hope that they do.
Well, we're our own employer.
Well, sure, but we got some entanglements, wonderful ones.
Entanglement.
Why do I? How about
Yeah,
I
you-
stop
you were
talking?
so close.
Yeah,
You were so close.
I was there, and then
Yes,
Got away.
shout out to our beautiful and glorious partner, Odyssey, for helping us give us structure to the operation in year two, and great people working over there, Eric Donnelly and the whole team. So thank you to Odyssey. Thank you, of course, to Arif, as I said, Conor Orr for everything he gave us all season, all our other contributors, and yes, thank you to Justin Graver, our producer. But right now, Justin is no longer the producer. He puts down that hat and puts on another one, or a hoodie. It says Legend across it. The 2025-26 season is over. The Seahawks are champions, and now Legend will tell the tale via bars.
Alrighty. I prepared a little video element to accompany this. So here we go.
Legendary on the mic. Yeah, it's your boy Legend, straight out the psych ward. 2025 NFL season recap. Let's go! Hedonists! Sound off in the comments, yeah.
Yeah. American football, best sport in the world. Let's recap the season that was just unfurled. A changing of the guard, a transfer of power. The whole season felt like the witching hour. Micah Parsons traded before week 1, but the season of weird had just begun. What happened to the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Lions? Bengals stayed down, Commanders fans crying. Jaden Daniels hurt, call it sophomore slump, while Caleb and Drake May got that new coach bump. Ben Johnson working miracles at Hallis Hall. Liam Cohen got him right down there in Duval. Jerry Jones keeps going, man is barely alive. And oh, what a year for the Darnold Hive. It was such a wild ride, I'm feeling cross-eyed. Phillip Rivers came back, he's almost 45. Quarterback injuries derailing seasons. A rich eye patch calling Brendan Gleeson. Justin Herbert's O-line was committing treason. Panthers roller coaster ride was defying reason. Puka catching everything, yeah, the way he's squeezing. A crazy season. Jim Schwartz is leaving. Myles Garrett's sack record had Sessler cheesing. JSN became the best receiver, and we all got a taste of Nine's demeanor. Kickers were incredible, expanding their range. Tony Romo every week saying something strange. Kathy Bates demonstrates what Lady Matlock can do. Power ranking every team, hoping Farbuck approves. Rookie QBs flashed electric play. Matthew Stafford MVP beating out Drake May. Mike Tomlin walked away to do some introspection. The Jets couldn't get a single interception. Another playoff game where Josh Allen got screwed. Now Bills Mafia is hoping that Joe Brady's that dude. Bo Nick's injury, so frustrating. The Patriots' defense, so suffocating. Mike McDonald's prowess was on full display, devouring opponents like a predator to prey. Which takes us to today, Super Bowl 60. Patriots and Seahawks getting frisky, but the Seahawks proved to be the league's best team. Sam Darnold believers, living the dream. 25, it was dope as hell. Gotta say the script writers really scripted it well. New Balance recaps got nothing on me. Don't you know who I am? I'm White Gravy. Yo! He did it.
Let's go.
Heed the call, everybody.
A plus. Anyway, I'm done.
Amazing.
Outstanding.
Justin, that was so good.